Creating killer content each week is no small feat. It really requires a deep understanding of your audience, a knack of storytelling, and a strategic approach. But why is content so important? As you most likely know, content is still king. It's really that lifeblood of your online presence and the fuel for your marketing engine. And good content can attract, engage, and convert your audience. So it can literally turn strangers into followers, followers into customers, and customers into advocates. But creating good content, again, is easier said than done. Hello and welcome to another episode of Digital Marketing Made Simple. I'm your host, Jenny Lyon, and today I'm excited to jump into 5 simple strategies that you can use today to crank out your weekly content. So again, you know what your audience wants. You need to deliver it in a way that's engaging and easy to digest. So you really have to optimize your content for search engines as well and social media. And again, you have to do all of this consistently week after week after week. But that's where content strategies come in. There are method and techniques that you can use to successfully create high quality content on a regular basis. So we can really help you plan, create, and distribute your content in a way that maximizes its impact and its reach. So let's really dig in to the details. So as always, number 1, you have to understand your audience deeply. That is really the first step when creating any type of content. You have to know who you're creating the content for. So who are they? What are their interests, their needs, their pain points? How do they consume content? So those are questions you really have to ask and understand about your audience, because the better that you can understand your audience, the more effective your content will be. And you'll be able to create content that resonates with them, meets them where they're at today, and drives them towards that desired action that you want them to take. But how do you gain this understanding, right? Well, you do that through audience research. So let's dig into that a little bit more. So audience research is the process of gathering and analyzing information about your audience. So there are a lot of different ways to do that, but here are some of my favorites that I do time and time again for clients and that works really well. The first step is surveys and questionnaires. Surveys and questionnaires can really provide valuable insights into your audience's preferences and behaviors. And the great thing about surveys and questionnaires is you can gather a lot of really great detailed information. That's usually my number 1 step. Next up is social media listening. So this involves monitoring your social media platforms and the platforms of your competitors very closely so that you can understand what your audience is talking about and how they feel about certain topics. And social media is the perfect place to do that. So a lot of times for clients, we'll do social media listening in different types of groups where we know their audience is hanging out. That really helps us to narrow down who that ideal audience is. Next up is your website analytics. So you can use tools like Google Analytics because they provide a wealth of information about your audience. So it will tell you what their demographics are, what their browsing behavior is. It can give you some insights into their interest. So really look at those website analytics to gather some information about your audience there. Another one that works really well is to interview your existing customers. So if you speak directly to customers that you're already working with and that are already happy with your products or services, they can really help you to gather a deeper understanding of the customer's needs and challenges. And of course, competitor analysis. So you definitely want to be doing that if you aren't already, but you want to be looking at what your competitors are doing because that's going to give you insights into what's working for them and what isn't working for them. That can really help you to find jumping off points. And as far as what's not working, there's your opportunity to jump in and gobble up that piece of the market. But each of these techniques really does have its strengths and weaknesses. So the key is to use a combination of them and, do what you need to do to get that well-rounded view of your audience. Once you have a better understanding of your audience, then you're going to want to create your ideal client avatars. So once you've gathered all of that audience data, then you want to start to build out those avatars. If you're not familiar, avatars are really this fictional representation of your ideal client. So again, it's based on that data that you've collected, and it really helps you to visualize your audience. So I remember years and years ago, decades ago, when I started this business, that was one of the first things that I did was really create my ideal client avatar. And I had all of the information about that person, their demographics, interests, behaviors, pain points, everything. And I even named the person. I even found a fictional image of the person. And I had that on my desk for quite some time so that anytime I would sit down to record something, to write something, to create something, I would always have that ideal client right there staring at me. And creating those ideal client avatars can really help you even empathize with your audience. And it can help to guide the content creation and ensure that the content that you're creating is created for that ideal client in mind and that the content is relevant and engaging. So, of course, you have to tailor the content to the audience's needs. So, understanding your audience is great, but it's not everything, right? The goal is to really use that understanding to tailor your content to your audience's needs. So that really means creating content that answers their questions, solves their problems, fulfills their desires. It means speaking their language, using their terminology, and addressing their concerns. It also means delivering the content in a format and style that they prefer. So you really have to dig into that. Does your audience want to read blog posts? Do they watch videos? Do they like infographics? Do they listen to podcasts? You have to figure out where they're consuming the content as well. That's just as important. But the key is really to put your audience at the center of your content creation process. Next up is to leverage audience feedback. So understanding that audience, again, it's not this one-time task. It's not like, okay, I understand who my audience is. I'm done. It's an ongoing process. Your audience's needs and preferences will change over time, and new trends will emerge, new competitors will pop up, and new technologies will change the way that people consume content. So it's really important to continuously gather and leverage your audience feedback. This can be done again through those surveys, through the social media listening, even blog comments or email responses. There's a lot of ways that you can gather that, but by listening to your audience and adapting your content to their changing needs, you can really ensure that your content remains relevant and effective. So that was a lot for number one, but let's move into number two, the second simple strategy for cranking out this weekly content, which is to make sure that you're optimizing the content that you create for SEO and ultimately conversion. Because again, it's not just about understanding that audience, it's making sure that your content is found by that audience. So that's where SEO comes in. So SEO is really that process of optimizing your content to rank higher in search engine results. And the higher that your content ranks, the more visibility it gets. And the more visibility it gets, the more traffic that you get to your website. But again, SEO is not just about attracting traffic, it's about attracting the right kind of traffic. So this means attracting visitors who are interested in your content, who finds value in that content, and who are most likely to convert into paying customers. So that's where we want to think about conversion optimization, which is really the process of optimizing your content to convert those visitors into paying customers. So this involves crafting really compelling headlines, creating engaging content, and also using very effective calls to action. So let's dig into that a little bit deeper. So when it comes to SEO, some of the best practices when you're creating your content include keyword research, which is what it sounds like. It involves identifying the keywords that your audience is going to be using when they're searching for content like yours. Keyword optimization, which is incorporating those keywords into your content in a natural, I can't say that enough, a natural and relevant way. Meta tags, those are those HTML tags that provide information about your content to search engines. So that's things like your title tag, your meta description, and your header tags. Link building, which involves getting other websites to link to your content, which again will improve your search engine ranking. The overall user experience, which means that you want to create content that's easy to read, easy to navigate, which will also improve your search engine ranking. Mobile optimization, which, believe it or not, even in today's age where most people consume from their phone, I cannot tell you how many times I see content and websites that are not mobile optimized. But you want to make sure that your content is accessible for people who are using their phones. And again, that will help with your SEO. And freshness. So that makes sure that your content is relevant and up to date. So you want to make sure that you're considering all of those things when you're thinking about your content. By implementing them, you can really increase the visibility of your content, attract more traffic, and improve that conversion rate. So let's dig into those a little bit more. So crafting compelling headlines and calls to action. So that headline is going to be the first thing that people see. That's what grabs their attention. That's what entices them to read your content. And a compelling headline can make the difference between a visitor reading your content or going to the next website. So how do you craft compelling headlines? Well, you want to make them clear, concise, and intriguing. You want to use power words or words that will evoke emotion. You want to make a promise or offer some sort of a benefit. What are they going to get out of reading this content? You can use numbers and statistics. You can also ask a question or challenge a common belief. But a compelling headline, again, it's not enough on its own. You want to couple that with a compelling call to action. A call to action is that prompt that encourages the visitor to take a specific action. So whether that's to download a resource, to sign up for your newsletter, to make a purchase, whatever that action is, when it comes to your call to action, it needs to be clear, concise, and action oriented. So you want to use persuasive language, you want to incorporate a sense of urgency, and again, you want to offer a very clear benefit. When you craft compelling headlines and couple that with compelling calls to action, you can increase the engagement and conversion rate of your content. All right, next up is using the analytics to refine your SEO strategy. So SEO, like everything in marketing, it's not just a set it and forget it process. I can't tell you how many times that clients are like, yeah, I had my website built a decade ago and they did the SEO and, everything's good. SEO really requires ongoing monitoring and refinement. And this is where your analytics can really come in. So you can use tools like Google Analytics. They really do provide valuable insights into your SEO performance. They can show you which keywords are driving traffic to your site, which pages are ranking the highest in search results, which pages are attracting the most visitors, and which pages are ultimately driving conversions. So you really want to analyze that data. It can help you to identify what's working and what's not. You can identify opportunities for improvement. You can make data-driven decisions that refine your SEO strategies. All right, tip number 3 of these simple strategies for cranking out weekly content is to develop a consistent brand and voice style guide. So your brand voice and style really does play this critical role when you're creating content. It helps to distinguish your brand from others. So it can help you to create this consistent experience for your audience and really build trust and loyalty with them. So let's dig into how you can develop a really consistent brand voice and style and how to establish that, how to create content with those style guidelines in your mind, and how to maintain that brand consistency across the different types of platforms. So, when it comes to establishing your brand voice, that's how your brand communicates with your audience. It's your brand personality. It's really reflected in the tone, the language, and the style of the content. So, to establish your brand voice, you need to really understand your brand. So, you'll want to ask yourself questions like, what is my brand's mission? What are my brand's values? What is my brand's personality? Once you understand your brand, then you can really go that step further to define your brand voice. Is it formal? Is it casual? Is it serious? Is it humorous? Is it professional or laid back and friendly? By defining your brand voice, then you can ensure that your content really resonates with the audience because it reflects your brand's identity. Next up is content style guidelines. So these are a set of rules that guide you through the creation of your content. So they really ensure that you are consistent in your tone, your language, your style. So it covers everything from grammar and punctuation to spelling and formatting. And it also covers aspects like your voice, tone, and language. So here are some elements that you really want to think about when you're creating your content style guideline. So your voice and tone, what is that? How do you define that? Define that voice and tone for your overall content. When it comes to the language, specify the type of language that you want to use. Is it formal, casual, technical? What does that look like? Grammar and punctuation. You really want to set rules for that, and the formatting as well. You want to make sure that you have those listed out, how you want the headings to look, the lists, links, all of those things, and the imagery or the graphics. You want to have very consistent guidelines for the use of images, videos, and other visual elements in your content. Again, this is to ensure consistency in your content, which again will enhance that overall brand credibility and trustworthiness. And then last but not least, you want to maintain that brand consistency across all the different platforms. So brand consistency is really key for building that strong brand. It ensures that your brand is recognizable, whether someone finds your website or your Instagram or your TikTok or your LinkedIn profile. It really ensures that your audience has this consistent experience with your brand. So to maintain brand consistency, you really have to apply your brand voice and style across the platforms. So make sure that your brand is consistent across your website, your blog, your email content, your social media, any platform that you're on. And it needs to include the different types of content that you create. So whether that's blog posts, videos, podcasts, whatever it is, you want to make sure that you have that brand identity consistent throughout. Again, this just strengthens that brand recognition and it builds that loyal audience that you're looking for. Number 4 of these simple strategies for cranking out weekly content is to plan and schedule your content. So it's really a key part of your content creation. It will ensure that you have a consistent flow of content and that you never run out of content. It helps you to manage your content creation process, and it helps you align your content with your overall marketing goals. So let's dig into those a little bit deeper, as well as the benefits of having an editorial calendar and how to generate and organize your content ideas. And of course, how to batch, create, and schedule that content. So, an editorial calendar is a tool for planning and scheduling your content, and it really provides a visual overview of your content plan. And it can help you keep track of your content ideas, your deadlines, your publication dates. It really helps to coordinate your content creation tasks, especially if you're working with other team members. So, some of the benefits of using an editorial calendar are consistency. It will ensure that you have content mapped out and that you're creating content on a regular basis. It will help keep everything organized so that you're making sure that you are working as efficiently as possible. It will help to ensure that your content is aligned with your marketing goals, any events that you have coming up, or any key dates. And it facilitates collaboration between team members, ensuring that everyone who works on your content is on the same page. And when you use an editorial calendar, you really can plan and schedule your content effectively. It will lead to better content and improved results. And I can tell you this from experience. I use an editorial calendar and I have for years, and I use it for all of my clients. You can grab our editorial calendar at jennylyon.com/content calendar, but you definitely will love using it because it keeps you completely organized, consistent, and it helps to really crank out that weekly content. All right, next up is generating and organizing your content ideas because that really is a critical part of your content planning. So that includes everything from brainstorming different types of topics that are going to resonate with your audience. It involves researching your keywords and trends that are going to help inform your content ideas. And it really helps with organizing those content ideas in a way that makes sense for your overall content plan. So, some of the techniques for generating content ideas uh, include audience research, which is one of my favorites. Just ask your audience, do a poll on social media. They will tell you what their needs are, what they're interested in, what their challenges are. That will really help you to come up with content ideas. Again, do keyword research, find out what keywords are popular, relevant keywords for your industry, and jump off from that. Competitor analysis, look at the content that your competitors are creating. That's definitely going to give you some ideas and inspiration, and you can definitely see gaps in what content they're creating and use that as a jumping off point. And always keep your eye on industry trends or any type of news. This can really help to generate timely and relevant content ideas. So I did this a lot when AI started to become very popular. I knew that people were very interested in AI. It was definitely an industry trend. It continues to be. There was a lot of news around it, but it definitely helped me to generate timely and relevant content. Once you have a list of content ideas, then you can start to organize them in the content calendar. So you can organize them by topic, format, what stage of the buyer's journey they're in. It can help you to prioritize based on the relevance and potential impact or even the ease of the content creation. But by generating and organizing your content ideas, that really does ensure that you have this steady flow of engaging content that you're putting out for your audience. I like to do my content calendar at least quarterly. That way, I never feel like I don't know what to write about. I always have an idea of exactly what I'm going to be writing about, and it really keeps me and helps me to create the consistent content that I put out every single week and have for years. All right, next up is batch creating your content and batch scheduling your content. You're going to be creating multiple pieces of content, usually in one go. That's what I do. I like to sit down and write at least a month's worth of content at a time because I've found that to be a really time efficient way to create content. It allows me to really focus in on this one task at a time, and it helps to reduce that cognitive load. So, for example, I will spend one full day kind of researching and outlining all my content for the month. Then I will the next day sit down and write all of the drafts. Then the following day, I'll kind of go through, edit, finalize all of the content, and then I will start recording everything. And then scheduling the content really involves deciding on when and where you're going to publish that content. So again, I like to do that all at once and really batch that out so that my content is always going out to my audience at the best times that I know that they are online, and I can make sure that everything's scheduled ahead of time. So again, I'm never stressed out that, oh my gosh, I have to record a podcast this week. I haven't done it yet, or I need to write that blog, or oh my gosh, I've been wanting to do those videos for social media. All that stuff is done like way in advance. So it really ensures that I always have this consistent flow of content going out, and I never run into that. You see a lot of times where you can tell someone put out a lot of really great content. You'll see they had great blog posts coming out every week or videos, whatever it is, and then there's kind of this quietness because they were burned out and they were like, oh my gosh, I can't record anymore, I can't write anymore. So if you do it in batches, you can kind of get it off of your mental list, at least for a couple of weeks, and focus on other things. All right, and last but not least in these 5 simple strategies for cranking out the weekly content is to repurpose and promote what you already have. So creating content, that's just the first step. To really maximize its value, you want to repurpose it and promote it. Repurposing your content really involves reusing existing content in a new way. So you can promote content in different ways as well. So it really depends on how you promote your content as you create it, but we really want to maximize the content that you create, and repurposing is a great way to do that. So let's jump into some ways that you can repurpose your content. So repurposing content is really the smart way to maximize its value. So it allows you to reach a wider audience by presenting the same content in a new way. So for example, a blog post could easily be repurposed into a video or even an infographic, a podcast, or even a social media post. So repurposing your content really also helps to reinforce your message by presenting it in a different way. And I have found myself with my own audience that they really do consume content in a lot of different ways. So that makes it kind of a no-brainer for me to not only write a blog post each week, but hey, I'm going to use this blog post to create a podcast. I'm going to use this blog post to create a YouTube video. I'm going to break it up and I'm going to use it for my social media. I'm going to send out an email about it. I'm going to do infographics, you name it. But it really does save you time and resources by leveraging your existing content. So here's some tips for getting started with that. So first things first, if you've never repurposed your content, you'll want to sit down and take a little bit of time to identify your most popular content. So take a look at your analytics. It will tell you what your audience has found to be most valuable. So that would be a good candidate for repurposing. Then you want to choose the right format. So think about how you presented the information the first time and how you could freshen that up and share it in a different type of format. So if it's a blog post and it did really well and it still tends to be one of your pieces of content that people consume on a regular basis, then I would highly recommend that maybe you record that as a video, that type of thing. And then, of course, you want to update your content. So I do this with a lot of my clients where, they kind of don't want to get stuck on that content hamster wheel. So we do repurpose a lot of their content, but we do that by going back and finding content that resonated really well with their audience and that's still relevant and accurate, but could use an update. So maybe that's a blog post where you rounded up a bunch of really great tools for people to utilize, but maybe now, a few years later, some of those tools aren't so popular anymore. Some of them may not even exist. It would be a good thing to go through, kind of flesh out that article a little bit more, make sure that all the tools are still relevant and accurate, and repurpose that article. And then, of course, promote that content. So whatever you need to do to promote it to a wider audience. So don't just, republish a blog and that's that. Really think about what piece of content do I want to repurpose and how can I promote this content in a fresh way. It really does help to extend the lifespan, reach that wider audience, and really get more value from this content that you're creating that's so valuable and time consuming to create as well. Next up is promoting your content, because that really is so critical for getting in front of your audience. So I can't say that enough. There are many channels that you can use to distribute your content. So it's way outside of just your website. Think about your email newsletter, your social media platforms, maybe guest posting sites. There's so many different sites out there that you can post content to, and each channel has its own strengths and weaknesses. So you want to make sure that you really think that out, as well as each channel will probably help you to reach a different segment of your audience. So here's some effective ways to look at that. So different places that you could post your content could be your website, right? That's going to be the primary home for your content. So make sure that your content is easy to find and navigate. I was doing some research last week with a client that I've been working with for, I think, about 15, if not longer, years. We've been working together, and we were really cleaning up her website, looking at her navigation, and we were doing some competitor analysis. And we looked at some competitor websites and we could not find their blog at all. They had a blog, we eventually found it, but we had to do a lot of digging. So make sure that your content is really easy for people to find and consume. Next up is, if you don't have an email list, it's time. You could send this out to your subscribers as an email newsletter, and you can use that newsletter to not only share your content, but engage those subscribers. It's a direct line to your subscribers. So if you aren't building and nurturing an email list, here's your ding, ding, ding. Next up is your social media platforms. These can really help to amplify content. So maybe you, again, have a really great blog post that does really well. People are constantly checking it out. Record some videos. Take that blog post and break it up into a bunch of videos that you can share to a new audience on social media. And those guest posting sites, those are great for expanding your reach and building authority. So just make sure that you're choosing really reputable ones within your niche. But when you promote your content across various channels, it really does help you to increase that visibility, to reach a wider audience, and drive more traffic overall. Next up is to leverage user-generated content and/or social proof. So user-generated content and social proof are very powerful tools for promoting your content. I'm sure you see this all the time. If you're on TikTok, you are very familiar with UGC, user-generated content, because almost all the stuff that I see on TikTok is user-generated content. It's any content that is created by your users, so such as reviews, testimonials, those type of things. You will see those a lot. So you will see people doing different types of posts trying to get you to purchase something, right? That social proof really refers to the evidence that others have valued your content, right? Such as likes or shares or comments. But whether you're using user-generated content or social proof, it can really enhance the credibility of your content, of your services, of your products. And this can really help to build trust with your audience. And it encourages more engagement and sharing of your content. So here's a few ways that you can leverage user-generated content and social proof. So you can encourage your audience to create and share content about your brand. I do this a ton with clients that have products or services that we can promote. We can showcase user reviews or testimonials. We could highlight social media posts from your users and even show how many people liked it, shared it, or commented on the content. When you leverage the UGC and social proof, you can enhance the credibility and appeal of your content. So again, it's just another way to create more engagement, to expand your reach and overall increase your conversions. So I know we covered a lot of ground in this podcast this week, really digging into those 5 key strategies for creating the content every single week. But these strategies really can help you to produce engaging and high quality content on a consistent basis. And I hope that some of these tips helped you to think about how you create your content. What does that process look for? But always really have, how is this content going to help build that stronger online presence and get a better conversion rate? So here's a recap of what we talked about today, and then I'll dig into some homework for this week. But number 1 was to understand that target audience. Make sure you understand them inside and out. If you need to conduct audience research, create those ideal client avatars, make sure that you're tailoring your content to your audience's needs and leveraging that feedback that your audience gives. Number 2 is to make sure that content is optimized for SEO and conversion. So make sure that when you're creating content, you're crafting compelling headlines, you have very clear calls to action, and that you're following the best practices for SEO. Number 3 is to develop a consistent brand voice and style. So again, this involves establishing your brand voice and then ensuring that you're creating content that falls within those style guidelines, and make sure that your brand consistency is consistent across all of the platforms. Number 4 was to plan and schedule your content. So that involves using an editorial calendar. If you don't have one, make sure you get it at jennylyon.com/content calendar. Generate and organize your content ideas, and then batch create and schedule all of your content at once. And then last but not least is to repurpose and promote your content. So maximize the content that you already have. Reuse it in a new way, using effective content distribution channels, and make sure that you're leveraging the social proof or user-generated content if you can get it. So now that you have these strategies kind of under your belt, what's next, right? You want to start by assessing your current content creation process. So make sure that you download our calendar. That will really help you to identify areas where you can implement these strategies. It will also help you to map out a plan for implementing these strategies, because it's not just about doing all of these things at once. I feel like when you try to sit down and do everything at once, that's where you really run into roadblocks and get stuck. So if you can start small and gradually start to incorporate these strategies, that will really work over time. That way you can also monitor the impact of the strategies on your content quality and conversion rates. And it will help you to adjust your approach based on the results. So as with most things in life, right, you want to keep learning and experimenting to find out what's going to work best for your audience and for your brand. But these strategies should definitely help to kind of move you that much closer to creating really great content each week. And of course, if you need any help at all with your content or any of your marketing, really please do reach out. I'm always happy to hop on a call. I will chat about anything that you need help with as far as your marketing goes. So feel free to always schedule a free consultation at jennylyon.com/chat with Jenny. But either way, I hope you found these 5 simple strategies for cranking out your weekly content helpful. And I'll see you next time on another episode of Digital Marketing Made Simple. See you soon.